I just come to listen, that's all. I'm not
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen. Thank you. And now, Timi Lumos.
Thank you, George. I want to welcome all of you here tonight, and it will be a very interesting evening, informative evening. I have to tell you that on the invitation, it said that Father Mark Airy would be here from the Archdiocese, but unfortunately he called me yesterday, and with the Patriarch's visit, he has a conflict, so he will not be able to be here with us this evening. But we do have other speakers and much discussion and quite a bit of information for you. Those of you who came in early and did not see all of the flyers, as you leave, please go to the table, and there is a lot of information out there for you. So please take whatever you like, and there's a book, the OCL book, which is for sale for $13. I would like to introduce to you, now I just want to tell you too, that this is sponsored by OCL, but is an open forum for the laity. So it is not an OCL meeting, but it is just sponsored by OCL as an informative meeting for the people. I'd like to introduce you to our moderator this evening, Peter Haikalis, who is a PhD. He is a former professor of Russian at the University of California at Riverside. He's on the faculty there and the librarian at San Francisco State University. He's the past president of Ascension Cathedral in Oakland, and he is a longtime OCL member. So I'd like you to welcome now Peter Haikalis.
Thank you very much. It's, I started my life in California, in Southern California, Riverside. My wife and I, when we were married, moved there, and we lived there for 10 years. And we're very much involved initially with the Greek Church of Orthodox in San Bernardino. And then as our daughter got older, we came to St. Sophia's quite often. And there are many faces in the audience that I recognize from those days 20-some years ago when we used to come to St. Sophia's. My parents live here. They've been very instrumental in the establishment of the Greek Church in Downey, and so that's where we go when we come to visit them now. So it's a pleasure to be here and to serve as the moderator for this program. Very first thing I'd like to do is to, I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to Timi for organizing this event. I would hope that we just kind of express that right now. And also to her co-chair, George Andrews. George? Both of these people, I think, really went out of their way to try and bring as many of us together for this session, which is primarily informational in nature. We're going to hear from several speakers. There'll be plenty of opportunity to ask questions, answer questions, and then as we draw to a close this evening, we'll have the opportunity to take a look at some resolutions that were passed by similar forums to this one elsewhere in the country, and see how much we are, if the group is in agreement with them. If not, it's up to you to decide what you would like to do. As Timi mentioned, this forum is not for Orthodox Christian laity members, but it's open for anyone who's interested in getting information on the current crisis leadership in our church. One of the things that I think was available in the back of the room was an information or a sign-up sheet. If you're interested in helping Timmy in the future, and George as sort of an OCL liaison group, you don't have to be a member of that organization to participate. Please feel free to leave your names there, because I think both of them could use all the help they could get from time to time. Now, two other things I wanted to say. A number of you saw a copy of this flyer and then that huge packet of papers that were on your chair. We're going to be having a similar program, but in a little bit more in depth in Oakland on Saturday, December the 13th. It's going to be a Diocese of San Francisco-wide forum which will deal with these same issues, and perhaps from a slightly different perspective, because by that time the Patriarch, His Holiness, will have finished his tour of the United States, and other events will have taken place, so that we may have yet additional perspectives to consider. If you want to make it a twofer, you can come to San Francisco and spend one day on Union Square doing Christmas shopping, and the second day you can come to the forum in Oakland. We've scheduled, for those of you that do think you would like to come, it's been scheduled so it's at least convenient to fly up for the day and fly back down. So if anyone would like to come, we would be more than pleased to have you there. We'll be done promptly at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so you can get back for evening activities here in LA. The other thing I wanted to say was that in terms of sort of the conduct of the forum, we're going to do the following thing, and that is we will use common sense parliamentary procedure when the time comes for that, if it's necessary. Also, we are going to try to follow some very strict timelines in the meeting. We have a timekeeper, right? Who's going to keep track. Our two speakers, one speaker is limited to 20 minutes and no more. Second speaker to 15 minutes and no more. We'll have then questions and answers, and I'd like to construct it so that everyone gets an opportunity to speak. We'll keep a speakers list, and we would like for it to go through that list so that everyone has the opportunity to speak once before someone can speak a second time. Because I think it's important that everyone have an opportunity to either give their opinion or to ask their questions or to do whatever. If there's a direct question to a speaker, of course that question will be answered by the given speaker. So if that's agreeable to you all, that's the way we'll conduct the forum. And I hope that we're reasonable in terms of giving everybody an opportunity to share their opinions, ask their questions. The first presenter tonight is Dr. John Coupounas, member of the Archdiocesan Council, member of Leadership 100, and a trustee of Hellenic College Holy Cross. And I will let him give a little further introduction of himself, and we'll just launch right into the talk. Dr. Coupounas, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. It's the first time I've talked at 10:30 Cleveland time ever before, so I'll try and stay with you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank Ms. Freshman for asking me. I know she's put in a lot of work to get this group together. And I would like to say a word about myself, if I may, because I really can't believe that I'm going to tell you tonight what I'm going to tell you. I can't believe it. I'm a neurosurgeon. I've been a member of our church, the Orthodox Church, a little over 60 years, in good health. I've got the prettiest cretin to come out of Kentucky. 2 lovely children, 2 great grandchildren. And this is the first crisis that I've personally had. And I'm going to describe some personal observations. I'll try not as best I can. I'll try not to talk about rumors. I'm going to describe personal observations. My comments will cover basically what's going on, just what's going on. And number two, what can we do about it? I'm not an activist. I think the last time I got in an argument with someone, it was an umpire when I struck out in high school. I argued a lot then. But life has been very simple, good. Our church, our beautiful church, canons to Turkey, met with His All Holiness Bartholomew. He spoke with all of us as a group twice, and he gave us an opportunity to meet with him individually. The two things, this is 2.5 years ago, the two things that we stressed. One, please send us a archbishop who has at least 5, perhaps 10 years experience in the United States. And two, please do not divide up the archdiocese. We felt as a group, after studying both matters, following this brilliant 37-year ministry of Haikalis, that we needed a person with experience, and second, please do not divide up the archdiocese. In January, February of this year, I was asked to serve as trustee on the board of the school, Hellenic College Holy Cross. I went to the school in April and noticed that they hadn't had a meeting for a year. So I called some of the other trustees and said, "What's going on?" I learned that they simply hadn't had a meeting. So many of us now attempted to have a meeting. This started in April. I learned quickly that in February, at a rowdy party, too much drinking, there had been an incident of sexual molestation, a homosexual act. Within 24 hours, the press knew. The president of the school was notified. He quite properly convened a disciplinary committee. On that committee, there were 4 priests and some students. They came to the conclusion after deliberation that there was too much drinking and that the student who had molested the other was out of line and recommended dismissal. 2 bishops from the outside the diocese was brought in. I spoke personally, first of all, with the priests involved on the disciplinary committee. I spoke with one of the 2 bishops, Bishop Maximus from Pittsburgh. They found that the student doing the fondling was out of line, and he agreed that he should be discharged. The 2 students, incidentally, signed His Grace Maximus's note. He has that. He showed that to me. Then Archbishop Spiridon had a 3rd investigation. A priest was asked to review the disciplinary committee and the report of the 2 bishops. Instead of taking a couple of days or maybe a couple of weeks even, he took nearly 2 months. Graduation occurred. The students graduated. They were left the country. He then said that there wasn't enough evidence and that the 2 previous investigations were not quite proper. Now, for some reason or other, 4 priests from that school are out. The president is fired. The 3 priests, and I've learned a lot of verbs as to what happened. They were reassigned. But it happens that the 4 on the disciplinary committee were the 4 that were moved on. We're still trying to get up a trustee meeting. We were put off, we were delayed, we were lied to. We found a little article that said if several of you get together, several of the trustees, present an agenda, you can force a meeting. We did that. We had a meeting scheduled for the 16th of July. After several weeks of trying to get a meeting, we had a meeting scheduled for, I believe it was the 17th of July, could have been the 16th. It's a Tuesday. The Saturday before that Tuesday, the Archbishop calls and says the meeting's canceled. After all that, the meeting's canceled. Well, 14, 15 of the trustees said, let's just have a meeting in Boston. Let's just try to find out what's going on. Let's have a discussion. Let's have an informal meeting in Boston on Saturday. We did all this the weekend prior to the Tuesday. On Sunday, I get a call from the Archbishop, and he asked me to come to New York. I was glad to come. I met with him on Tuesday. When I walked into his office, he was with his chancellor and a priest. And the first thing he said was, after a greeting, I'm going to sue those 4 priests. I said, I don't understand, Your Eminence. Just read these letters. And he had the chancellor read me the letters. Flowery letters, quite proper letters, showing allegiance to the patriarchate, to the church, to him. I said, what's the problem? This allegiance. I tell them to get out, and they won't. I said, you just can't do that. I mean, to sue you. Well, he says, John, why are you here? I said, Your Eminence, I'm here because I'm concerned about the lives of 4 priests. 4 dedicated priests, professors. I'm concerned about their families. I'm concerned about the school. I'm concerned about accreditation. And I'm concerned about the reputation of us in the larger sense. But why are you concerned? I didn't know how to answer that again, so I gave him the same answer. But why is everyone concerned? I said, Your Eminence, I'll have to put it this way. What you've done is illegal, immoral, and unfair. Well, what's to be done about it? I said, you're the only one that can correct this. This is in the spring. You're the only one that can correct this. Put those men back in their positions. Let us trustees do what you have asked us to do. We can't even have a meeting. Incidentally, you canceled a meeting that we were to have tonight. Put those men back. Let us do our job. We'll come to you with recommendations, options. You have all the power. Your corporate board has all the power. The trustees, an interesting setup at the school. It's probably one of the few institutions where trustees have very little power, incidentally. It's 6 people, corporate members of a board that really have the power. They hadn't met either, incidentally. I called most of them. Well, he says, no, I can't do that. If I put them back, I'll appear weak. I said, Your Eminence, you're human just like us. We all make mistakes. President of the United States made a mistake. Went on national television to admit that he was unfaithful. He has a higher popularity today than ever. He asked me if I could stay for lunch. I couldn't, but he said, can you come back tomorrow? I said I would. Mind you, now this is Tuesday, the day that the meeting was canceled. We had arranged for a meeting in Boston. This is New York. You know, the Archdiocese is in New York. We had the Saturday Boston meeting. I came back in Wednesday and he says, Dr. Collis, you've convinced us we need to have a meeting. Let's have a meeting of all the trustees in New York Friday night. I says, give me a break. I said, we're here Tuesday, we're here Wednesday. It's expensive to make these last minute changes. He says, please. I said, we will. We'll come. It'll be expensive, but we'll bring the 4 priests. You realize that no one has talked to those priests. We're the only one that's talked to them. You haven't talked to them. The chancellor hasn't talked to them. Nobody has talked with those priests, and they're out. You've fired them. The priests, I don't want those priests there. I'm going to sue them. I said, Your Eminence, we'll be here Friday. We're going to have that meeting on Saturday with the priests. He said, fine. Friday, we're there. He said what he has just said 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said, you know, if I had to face the issue of the school again, I would do exactly as I did before. Bishop Methodius stands up and says, and I couldn't believe my ears. He says, I agree with His Eminence 100%. Bishop Methodius. Archbishop Spiridon is patient. He's listened to me talk. We've had so many meetings. He said, now, John, I've asked Dr. Collis to come. Would he speak? I never spoke so long in my life. I pointed out that I have talked with friends, Orthodox Christians across the country. They are terribly disappointed. They knew those 4 people. 30 years of service, 2 each had. I said, you must return those priests to the position. Let us trustees do our job. Let us make an investigation. We will come to you with recommendations. You and your corporate board have only to select what you feel is right, and then we'll help you do whatever you say. And I said, please don't continue this talk about suits. St. Paul has written us very clearly in 1 Corinthians 6. If a believer brings a suit against another believer, he will not gain entrance to heaven. 1 Corinthians 6. And I said, and mind you, His Eminence is there, the bishops are there, and some trustees. I said, you know, the thing that brought this issue to a head was sexual abuse by a homosexual. And when I was there, they looked on me, there being Boston, they looked on me as though I were from New York. And in a sense I am, because I'm a member of the Archdiocesan Council. They said, you know, you have problems right there at the Archdiocese. There's been a priest that's been abused. So I said, let's finish this chapter, 1 Corinthians 6. And the next is, and talking about who will not gain entrance to heaven, and neither will the sinners, liars, adulterers, and neither will homosexuals. And I said, now we're looking at the school. We have a problem right here. We need to correct it here. A priest has been abused. He's come to you. Nothing has happened. Unfortunately now that priest is gone. Well, we had the meeting the next day in Boston. And who is sitting in the audience but the chancellor? And he says, I don't want you all talking with the priests. And I said, Father, that's your opinion, but we're going to talk with those priests. He said, I'm concerned about their rights. Now, there were 3 lawyers there in the trustees as we sat there, and we turned to them and said, well, what are we talking about, rights? We're all Christians here. We're Orthodox Christians. We simply want to find the truth. What's this rights? And you know, the 3 attorneys couldn't agree. So we canceled that meeting and started over. We now agreed to have a meeting in August. Again, through that same petition, we had to put in a group of signatures. We had to have an emergency meeting under that basis. But we finally had a meeting scheduled. Now, the next month, we're into Saturday, August the 16th. I knew that the power was not with the trustees. Those 6 corporate members, one being Archbishop Spiridon, and he appoints the other 5. By having 4 of the 6, for instance, they could sell the school. That's, one day it may have to be sold. So my knowing this, that they had to have 4 votes, I talked with 3 of them. Clever me. First time I ever read any bylaws in anything I ever belonged to. 3 of them said, I won't vote until we hear from the trustees. Since we haven't made an investigation and you trustees have some information, we won't vote till you get there. Okay? The opening comment was a priest from the Alumni Association had asked for an investigation. And he came and said, please have an investigation. We're concerned about the activities at the school. He, in essence, was told to get out of there because he was not a trustee. And I said, wait a minute now. You, Mr. Attorney, are not a trustee either. What do you come off telling him to leave? Neither is Bishop Methodius a trustee. He's sitting here. Well, a day before, Bishop Methodius was made a corporate board member. And 3 hours before our meeting, there was a secret meeting, a 7 o'clock meeting. And the corporate board had agreed to kick out Father Kalivas, now officially, without talking with the trustees. And of course, they moved or reassigned the other 3. It was an outrageous meeting. The spirit of the law, if that means anything now, was totally in disarray. What followed in that meeting also was inexcusable. One priest said that he was now at the school. He was on my left. And he had made a little investigation, and he was not going to expose Father Kalivas. And furthermore, actions have consequences, like Timothy McVeigh. And he sat down. I said, wait a minute, Father. You're not going to expose. You imply you have something to say. Get back up and say it. And Timothy McVeigh, in the next sentence of Father Kalivas, is outrageous. I could go on. I'll just finish that meeting by quoting His Eminence Spiridon, saying that he's for the best teachers possible. He's for academic freedom. See? And if this were any country but the United States, he would take care of those priests. And then he'd have them defrocked. I had to stand up again. I said, Your Eminence, for you to talk about academic freedom, and I'm afraid I started laughing. It's so serious now I can't laugh. I feel like crying. But for you to talk about academic freedom, and for you to say that you would take care of those priests, this is the United States. You're not going to take care of those priests, and you're not going to defrock them. I don't know where I got that line, but it seemed appropriate. I wrote a letter, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, that really described my frustrations. I think it's the first letter I ever wrote other than trying to get that wife to marry me. And I just want to paraphrase this. Your Eminence, Archbishop Spiridon, this is August 18th. Since you and your corporate board have total control and total responsibility for the school, and you have silenced the trustees this past Saturday, I want to make a few observations, suggestions, and conclusions. You have moral, legal, and fiduciary responsibility